I'm speaking to someone who has a lot of questions, and there's almost this big decision that is looping in the air, in the mind, okay? I've got these cards laid out in front of me. I have something that has been sitting on my mind, and I believe that's what's coming through in this spread. This is laid out according to the chakras. Can you see how many swords there are towards the heavier, more dense chakras, the root chakra to the right? Got the Two of Swords, the Queen of Swords, the Five of Swords, and the Knight of Swords. Right in the middle, you have Justice, which has a sword as well. Okay, so this is about balance. That's what's lying at the heart, is the root, trying to get to a balance of truth, okay, through exploration. So this top row is the conscious mind, the masculine, okay, and then the middle row is the unconscious space, the feminine, what's taking place below the surface and rising to the surface. I've also got these nature cards laid out, just to add more color to this reading and this understanding. There are also a lot of cups. There's a lot of water here. And if you have a look at, if we move from, let's start at the middle, what I like to call the heart of the matter. If you look at this water, life, blood card, there are these cracks in the land, and the water is now seeping through these cracks. This to me looks like the reason why these two tarot cards have come out this way. These masculine structures are fractured. Okay, they have sustained enough pressure over time to now become fractured. And so the truth, the water, the wisdom is starting now to flow and bring life back to the land. I have 22227 on the clock, which is telling me that this is not things falling apart. This is actually the process of things coming together in divine timing. I'm aware of the questions that are being asked because of the swords. But actually, when I looked at these nature cards, do you see the first letters of each word along the first 5 cards? H, W, 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 which is literally like how, when, where, how, sorry, what, who. It reminds me of those question words. And with all of these swords, there is really an asking of a lot of questions. Queen of Swords, Five of Swords, this struggle with the truth, this struggle with a truth that you have received intuitively, and now what to do with it when the world may not accept it. Not just the world. This truth is struggling to get even past your mind. Okay, this is something you've been contemplating for some time now. If you look at the crown chakra, you've got the Judgment in reverse, which is to say you have not reached a decision. Okay, you haven't reached a decision, and this decision that has not been reached is very loud. If you look 4 of Cups underneath that, it says meditation, and so this is the contemplation, and so you're trying to contemplate all of this at the same time in your throat. I've also got the 4 of Cups in your conscious mind, and so there's this over contemplation of what it is you are, what you believe, what the truth is. Okay, so this thing that you've been sitting with for some time, I'll tell you right now that you already know the truth. You already know the truth, which is why your voice, your expression is now starting to compete, to transform how you're communicating. Okay, this is 5 of Wands. The 5 is also, it is there in the 5 of Swords in your base chakra. And the thing is that with these 2 5s, okay, this is a transformation underway of the truth, okay? And those 2, the Queen of Swords and the 5 of Swords, are telling me that often where the block is is that things have worked a certain way for so long that as soon as you contemplate changing, fundamentally how things are understood, you reach this, I want to call it a paradox. Okay, you reach this paradox. I actually wrote something down earlier. It says, redefining or re-understanding how things work is difficult because ultimately a brick wall is encountered. So then you either want to go back to the beginning, or you want to solve backwards, or you want to break down the wall. But these are all solutions limited to what's available within our understanding, within this paradigm. And so perhaps understanding is not the answer. Maybe the downloads you receive intuitively are the solution for what is received to be what is lived by as evidence of what is true. I'm saying this because when you receive something intuitively, you connect with it on a level that feels very true. Okay, and because it's intuitive, it is not fact-based. But if you redefine what a fact is, then you can transition. And so then we can maybe become more open to working with truth as the foundation, as it's received, and with lived experience as evidence. To put this in other words, what I'm saying is things are shifting. Okay, things are shifting. In yesterday's reading, I mentioned that there is something that humanity has not considered. Okay, humanity has a way of explaining confusion away. Okay, we take something, we explain it up until we cannot explain it any further. But instead of taking that information that is not fully explainable, we publish it. We publish it and we make it the law, which, if you sit and really interrogate this law, it doesn't make sense. And what it's opened our world up to is that more than one law is presented. And so sometimes somebody decides to sit with both laws, or all three, or all four, begins to unpack them, interrogate them, until they find the paradox. Moving through a time like this, with masculine structures shifting beyond our understanding, beyond our control, okay, beyond the control of all systems, it's so important to know what you believe, because what you believe is it's the information that you're feeding into the system. And so it is going to affect the output. And so now this is why the output is becoming frustrating, because the new system is resisting what is not true. And so if we have two separate understandings of what truth is, one is evidence and fact-based, and the other is intuitively based, they are bound to clash. And so after, once a person or a system feels enough is enough, okay, fed up of being fed up, what do they say? Sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's when the system or the person resorts to an alternative. It's usually in exploring this alternative that something else is discovered, something true, but still something that comes without facts and without evidence. The type of evidence that we get from intuitively based information is felt. It's felt. It usually also cannot be explained in such detail and with so many facts, similar to, let's say, a person who studies and researches and works their way through the system, because the person who survives in the system is generally not the person who has had to survive outside of the system, the person who gets this type of intuitive information. If you look here where the third eye is, do you see all the passion and the Ace of Wands? Okay, there's a lot of activity in the third eye. Okay, so you're getting a lot of activity in your third eye. There are things you are seeing, there are things you know, there are things you want to do something about. In the subconscious, there's Seven of Cups, which is giving options. It's causing confusion. It's giving a lot of options. Okay, so this is all still wide open. The higher chakras here are showing this openness to what may be true. This Four of Cups in your throat chakra, in your conscious mind, is showing me that you're uncomfortable saying what you want to say. You're not happy. You feel you don't have enough. Okay, that enough that you are thinking about is all rooted in this paradigm's need for facts and evidence. And so you're stuck in between. You're stuck in between. Should I believe my intuition? Should I go with my intuition? Should I be bold? And how will this be received when it goes against everything that we've been taught? And so what's the result? Two of Swords, Knight of Swords in your creative space, in your sacral chakra. Okay? You are still wide open. There is this feeling of whatever you create right now will be confused. And when you engage with it, there's two ways you engage with it. Two of Swords. Sometimes you engage with it, it feels very true. You're getting a lot of information. Other times you engage with it, you're interrogating your information and you're trying to prove it against this paradigm's like thought process and way of reasoning. This is all reminding me of the story of Job in the Bible. That was my first encounter with actually opening the Bible and reading it, okay? But there's this idea of enduring this persistent and ongoing, almost feeling of punishment, okay? The way things are becoming, they've just changed. They're just becoming a different way. They're becoming unworkable, and it's a suffering. And essentially what results is an attempt to have a debate with God. Please excuse me if I have completely butchered this Bible story, but this wanting an audience with God to be able to thrash this out and reason and all of that. And from what I recall, the outcome is God pretty much making a point that I am still the one you come to when you really want the truth, aren't I? And this is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. What you feel to be true from inside right now, the kind of truth that is seeping through life right now, that wants to be communicated into this world, that wants to come in and change the world and transform the way this paradigm operates, understands, sees. Okay, that is going to be done through speaking it into the world. Now, the challenge that I'm seeing here, you look in the solar plexus, it's coming through there. That's the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, so this is turning the wheel of how you show up. Okay, and the subconscious is telling me that this is, you actually feel like you don't have a choice. And so this is becoming a point of contention in your life, in your mind, in your heart. Okay, because you want things to come back into balance, justice. And this waterfall here, persistence, is also telling me that there is the information just keeps coming. Look at all these cups overflowing in this reading. It's persistent. Okay, the wisdom is persistent because the wisdom has taught you for long enough that, you can live by wisdom. But there's that one question. We reach that question when we really start to deal with the physical, structural, material world, where we question whether wisdom applies here too. The more I look at these cards, if you look at these W cards, the nature cards, the 4, they all have 4s, which is also taking me back to the 4 of Cups. This is, you are deep in contemplation about this matter, this thing that you want to express. This topic has come up in a personal reading in the form of a communication or a style of working or something that you want to introduce as taboo, okay? Something that is true, but that may feel taboo to deliver. And so I have 2, let's call them suggestions or questions. What ifs? What if you treated the truth that you know as the new truth? Okay. The second question I want to ask is, what if you could behave as though the truth that you know is true, rather than trying to change what is already there, fix what is already there? What if you showed up to ask the questions? What if you shared what's coming through you? What if you found others like you, who think like you, who feel the way you feel, and who have been wanting to share the same thing, but have been hitting the same brick wall? I'm saying this because if you look in the crown chakra, there is honeybee community. I have my own thoughts around the value of community in creation. Just because it's something that has worked for me, it does not mean it's true for everyone. But this is almost right here the perfect example of me living through what I believe and gathering evidence through my behavior, rather than sitting on my own, believing there's nothing more to what I'm feeling inside of myself. Feeling I'm the only one, feeling I don't have enough, feeling I haven't done enough research, I haven't got it all waxed, I haven't got a perfect product, all of those things that stop me from accessing the community that could back me up. I'm going to use a real example right here from Pyramid Energy. I started reading cards in, I'd say, properly, let's say 2021. What I mean by properly, I mean going beyond the point where I just have a deck of cards or 2 and sometimes pull a card and read the book. Okay, I'm talking about laying cards out and beginning to interpret them and getting to the point where I offer a friend a reading. This is just one example of the point I'm trying to make. I then spent some time, doing some personal readings that I would offer. I've learned a lot about directing an offer for a personal reading at a particular person. I've learned a lot about that since. But then I started sharing my service on my Instagram, and my community was made up of people that know me, people that had an understanding somewhat of my background, my professional background, all of that. And so I was essentially up against this passion of mine, was up against this world that has dealt with, I suppose, many charlatans, wouldn't really be able to appreciate what I have to offer until they tried it, would need to have a really open mind to try it. And also there were all these trust barriers. If my readings are accurate, what is it about them that I might see that they're not comfortable with me seeing? To actually advance to the point where you ask someone for a reading means you are willing to be seen. Now, I'm aware that there's so much more to this because that's obviously not the place where I was meant to spread my wings. But at the end of 2022, I found myself feeling quite lost, like very lost, not knowing what to do. I had withdrawn from Instagram. I had withdrawn from most of the world except for pretty much the people that are still in my life today. I was writing quite a lot. I'd share a lot of writing, but nothing about my readings. Okay. I also had no work at the time. And so this was just generally a very hopeless time of my life. But it also became the most hopeful because it was the first time I interacted with gratitude journaling. Very simple. And the first time I really considered what would happen if I, asked God to help me here. I had nothing to lose. I also really didn't want to go back to my former professional, space. But within 2 months, I'd found 2 freelancing jobs, 2. 2 had found me. Actually, I'd say 2 found me in the most uncanny of places. So this helped me settle back into myself. It helped me to feel stronger. And I continued to write. And so the result was that the pressure had eased off from needing to do my readings for money, needing to write for money. All that pressure had eased off. I could breathe. And by March the following year, something happened. A few things happened. I'd got a series of downloads because I was writing. And one day I decided, let me record myself doing a reading. This wasn't the first time I'd tried to start a YouTube channel. In total, I'd say I have 3, including this one. The first one was me trying to read cards and have the camera over the cards, just like everyone else I had been watching at the time. I wasn't very consistent and I didn't really know how YouTube worked. And I wasn't happy with the result. It felt very unnatural. It felt like I was just trying to copy someone else. It just didn't feel like me. But there are a few comments I picked up through that, let's call it experiment, that said something to me. Because maybe out of the 28 subscribers that I had, and I don't know how many videos I'd posted, let's call it 15 overall, I received 2 comments, both referring to my voice. It had never occurred to me that my voice is a big deal in this experiment. It had never occurred to me. And it's only something I was able to properly reflect back on when I started Pyramid Energy. I started Pyramid Energy completely anonymous. The artwork is exactly the same, black screen with white text and that white triangle. I haven't changed a thing there. What has changed is the adding of the cards. I added that because I'd often get frustrated watching card readers where I can't see the cards. I can't actually see. They flash them in your face and then they're gone. You can't actually interact. You don't ever get an understanding or view of their spread. And it's not that this is of great importance. It's just something that I felt I wanted to do. And so that afternoon, I posted a 5-minute video. I took my download. Pyramid Energy was part of it. And I named the channel Pyramid Energy. At the time, I was watching a lot of Magnetize Yourself, her channel, Infinity's channel, and I liked that she put the text and it was just her voice and it felt like she could really connect with herself and her audience just through her voice. And so I did that. It was also sort of just a confirmation because around 2019, I was very sick at the time and I was in hospital and I had downloads. I was still deep in corporate at the time and I was suffering some form of like life burnout and I had downloads that didn't make sense. Okay, I had downloads that didn't make sense. I didn't know what to do with them, but I knew something would manifest from it. And it was very much around masculine and feminine. I didn't even know what those terms actually meant back then. It was a lot about there was this black and white. I wanted it to be a very welcoming environment for people of all genders, rather than a lot of this healing work that tends to be targeted at women. I'm not sure, maybe I sort of feel why, but irrespective, I wanted it to be a meditative space. I wanted it to be a space of personal growth and manifestation. And then my work became, like I said, about readings, personal readings. And so I just didn't understand how I was going to turn a personal reading business into something that can sustain me. I didn't understand. And so that was also part of the decision why I kind of threw in the towel and just went back to writing and ended up feeling the way I was feeling in 2022. Until I released it, I surrendered it, and within months, I was earning an income outside of this. I was able to engage my writing and engage my work in a much more free, way. Until that day I posted that video, it got 50,000 views. Okay, 5 minutes. But that reading has held it down for me because it proved something to me. It proved something to me because I got a lot of responses on that video. A lot were reflective of what I'd seen in the first time I tried a YouTube channel years before that. But what's actually unfolded through this journey is there are certain things that you will not complete discovery of on your own. Community is so important, especially when you're dealing with something that is going to shift the world. It's going to shift how people think. It's going to shift these structures. I'm explaining what I really want to share about the importance of sharing what you find. What you receive through your intuitive channel is a gift. And the question I'm asking you today is, what are you going to do with that gift? If your answer is that your gift soothes you, I respect that. But if you keep asking yourself questions like, who would accept this? Who would need this? And then you basically, you're like nullifying the value of this gift that you carry through you. You carry it through your system from somewhere onto earth. You're carrying it. It's delivered in front of you. What is the reason you would not share it? What is really the reason you would not share it? If it's so lovable, if it's so caring, if it's so soothing, if it's so insightful, why would you keep it to yourself? Perhaps one of the considerations is the fear of it not being accepted, perhaps. But these divine gifts come through you for the world. They come through you to be shared. I don't have proof of what I'm saying. For me, the proof has been in this pudding. It has been through my experience where I am yearning for insight. I really need answers. I need something. When I lay out my cards on my own, I can see the answers, sort of. I can see them. But when I speak the cards to you, they come through more defined, more refined, with more clarity, with more belief juice, is what I'll call it. It's like a belief juice. It's as if I bring this stuff that's made of water and air and sound, and the community backs me up, makes me feel stronger, allows the shape of what I'm creating to become. We were not meant to do life alone. And so I hope that this message has landed. I'm not here to convince you. My biggest message today is, do not be blocked by the paradox, because the paradox only gains its strength when the truth is up against the understanding of the current paradigm. I'm also not saying that you need to put yourself on a platform like YouTube. There are various platforms. There are blogs. There are books to be written. There are circles to sit with. Finding the community should not be the fixation, because that can also be quite a block, okay? Because if you put the priority on finding a community before you share your stuff, that could become a block. You could meet resistance there if that's not how it's meant to work, or that's not, those are not the steps that are set before you. But what I will say is become open. Please become open to sharing, because as you become open to sharing, then the world can show you your options of what might work. And how do you decide what will work? Well, you look around and see what sparks, what warms you up inside when you consider it. Not just warms you up. What makes you feel like slightly cold with jealousy, like I wish I could do that? It could be things like that. Many of the things I do on the channel have been born that way. If you look at this sacral chakra card, Moss Adaptability, all of this water is coming in to create this adaptability in us. These blocks we're experiencing are to make us explore. Just yesterday, I did a reading for myself. I ended up not sharing it because my children arrived and it was just going to be too noisy. But I was trying to get to the bottom of what is going on with the YouTube algorithm. I was trying to get to the bottom of it. When you're on YouTube in particular, this can also be applied to other systems and platforms. But when you're on YouTube, actually it can be applied to life. When a system stops working for us, we want to blame the system. That's actually just how we react, because it's very difficult to turn around, look in the mirror and really consider perhaps there's another way that you need to be, another approach, an exploration. Because when you consider this idea of hitting a brick wall, hitting your head against a brick wall, you're hitting the same head against the brick wall. You're not actually taking your head away and going to see what you can rejig and like move around and then come back and try your head against the wall again. You're actually just repeatedly hitting your head against the same brick wall. And so you're wanting the wall to change instead of approaching it possibly a different way. Even entertaining a conversation with someone is a way. If you tell yourself that something will not be accepted, that will affect your receptivity when you find yourself in the right place with the right person that you having this conversation with. It leaves you less receptive to open the conversation in the direction you feel called to take it. I sometimes ask myself about how many opportunities, for example, I've missed out on because I didn't want to tell people what I do for a living, what my interests are, what my work is. It took a long time for me to accept what I do. I was very free here on the channel, but in my world where things work a certain way and people have known me a certain way, that's been the hardest to break through. This is not something I don't encounter here on the channel. I encounter it here too. When a new truth reaches me, I sit and I contemplate whether it's going to resonate with you all. I do. And I've realized that the power of belief within a collective is felt. We often bring it into ourselves and tell ourselves that what we want to say is wrong. But what we're missing is the other side of it, is that as an energetic being, you may be picking up on the talk and the resistance from the other end to what you have to say. What I'm going to share next is also from lived experience, and it relates to what I mentioned about not trying to find the right platform and the right outlet first. I want to invite you to just become open. You are an intuitive being. You receive information. Okay, you receive information. If you put it out there that you'd like to become more open to something, that you want something, that you'd like direction, that's enough. At least for now, that's enough. I also want to say that if you find that the space you've chosen isn't working, or whoever you express whatever you have to is not receptive, do not take this as a confirmation that you are wrong. Sometimes it's the wrong audience. Sometimes it's just not the time or the place. That's why I've found that it saves my energy when I don't keep trying to force something that's not working. If I feel it's the wrong place, I'll often rather retreat. And I much prefer to attract and not to chase. Because when I attract, then I can remain in my balance and my stillness, and then my discernment is sharper as to whether something is right or not for me. Whereas when I pursue something, when I pursue it and I determine the place and the time and all those things, my human mind determines all of those things, being off the mark, I tend to find that discouraging. Do you understand what I'm saying? Another pitfall that I have encountered is, and this is like sometimes it feels like a daily thing where I'm shedding, or it feels like, it comes back. It comes back because over time, we build habits and we start doing things a certain way. We forget why we're doing them. And then before you know it, there's this way that you're doing something and it no longer belongs, and it's starting to block your path, and you're unaware that it's that thing. Sometimes we adopt ways of doing things. We adopt them from what we see or things we've been doing, and we do them, and it creates a huge task for us. Just because the way we're doing this thing, it's not natural to us. It feels like a huge effort, because this can happen. Let's say, again, this is through my lens, someone creating a video and it takes them, a week to put the video together, and then afterwards they have no steam to make another one. Okay, so it's this sort of this perfectionism trap, but also that's an opportunity to really sit and interrogate why each aspect of what you're creating is even there. Often, not anymore, but I used to get some pressure on the channel to show up on video. And the reality is that if the entire audience is expecting me to show up on video, I will release much fewer videos. Chances are it will dilute what I'm channeling, because my senses are now split trying to show up physically with my face when my face has nothing to do with what I do here on the channel. It doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't give me the space to kind of just be and deliver the message and really feel into my senses and my voice. I'll do a human video soon just to connect, but we'll see what happens. But I did 1 or 2 or 3 previously just to prove to myself that it's not because I'm hiding. This is just me in my natural creative flow, removing the things that don't appeal to me and the things that maybe appeal to others but don't feel true to me. And so this is a message to really interrogate why you find your method depleting, exhausting. There's a reason. Some of the things I do to edit my videos might seem like a huge task to someone else. To me, they come easily. This also goes against a lot of the advice that's shared by these YouTube gurus, a lot of the things. I mean, it's laughable because in the last week, I've been watching a lot of those videos to, workshop things around here and see what's happening, which is why I did the reading that I did on the YouTube channels. But the answer I got through my reading is that there's a great reset happening, and it's calling people to explore new ways and new understandings. And what I've found is audiences are changing. People are shifting. People are tired of clickbait. People's interests are changing. They don't know what they want. They're clicking on a video, clicking off as soon as it doesn't give them what they want. And others are just yearning for something else, and they feel their algorithm is stuck. There's all these AI things on going through the algorithm. It's going through a reset because there's been a rush of new incomers. It's worked very well for these incomers. And now what's probably going to happen is a lot of people might actually drop off the algorithm. And so if there's something that you enjoy doing, you just sit back and enjoy what you're doing and produce it. And if it's too much work, then there's something you need to remove there, but to play, to continue to play, and not to play for the audience, to play for yourself, because it's in this practicing that you'll get closer to what you're creating and you'll watch it evolve over time, because you don't want to be the person who says to yourself, I should have done this then. That has really kept me going, because again, you can get sucked into what everyone else is saying about the algorithm, and now no one believes the gurus anymore because they've just been repeating the same stuff, getting the most views. It's drama out there. It's drama out there. But once your thing is ready, and it's not, in my personal opinion, not your assessment of what readiness means that counts. It's more your receptivity to the audience. I'm not exempt from this. I'm not exempt from this. I just personally believe strongly that if my message is of value and it's important and I find it to be true, and I have, taken this advice that I've been sharing that no one asked for, then it will make it to its destination. I often hit this brick wall when I start to decide it's not making enough of a destination. It's not, when my ideas of what it's meant to achieve are not met, that's a sign that I've got lost in the noise of these markers of success and achievement of this currently prevailing paradigm. And when I go back to the enjoyment of what I do, and go back to the privilege of having a community to share it with, and appreciate the fact that a lot of everything here has been through experimentation, I come back to basically what I was doing before I started the channel, which was writing and really getting closer to myself as a writer, getting to know what it is that's coming through me, seeing the evidence on paper, seeing its development. Essentially, that's what I'm doing, except at the right time and on the right day, I opened this door and found the next steps. It's funny because the main message in that very first video was, build it, they will come, which is very Noah's Arky, It's kind of very much like that. But if you can just imagine that I was just recording a reading on my own in my room and I made it 5 minutes. If you can just imagine the door that opened for me, what I found beyond that door. And so whatever your crazy theory is, this crazy thing you want to say, this thing that is hard to explain in terms of how it makes sense. What do they say? Fly your freak flag high. And if it happens to send you into this feeling of an existential crisis, which can happen, it can happen. You move down this rabbit hole of your own creation, and then you reach this point where it feels like the end of a hallway. Have faith. That's here. The sun faith card is right here in the base chakra. It's to fall back on what you believe and what you know to be true. The reception of it isn't evidence of its efficacy. How it's received isn't your real proof. And so if you trust that what you know and feel and see is true, go on that. You'll prove it later. I appreciate you all so much. I'm going to close this here. I didn't think it was going to go on for this long, but I felt like, my personal story was coming up. There's more about my personal story that I feel called to share, but I will share it as we go. Sending you all so much love.